My stepmother announced she was cutting me from Dad's will at the reading the lawyer started, pulling out a second envelope that changed everything. She thought she had won, but my father had one last surprise waiting for her in the vault. I sat in the mahogany-paneled office, listening to the rain lash against the window. The air felt heavy, stagnant. It had been exactly 7 days since we buried my father. Across from me sat Regina, my stepmother of 15 years. She was wearing a black veil that felt more like a costume than a sign of grief. She hadn't shed a single tear at the funeral. In fact, she'd spent most of the wake eyeing the vintage paintings on the walls. "Shall we begin?" Regina asked. Her voice was sharp, impatient. She looked at the lawyer, Mr. Henderson, who was adjusting his spectacles. "Of course," Mr. Henderson whispered. He broke the wax seal on a thick, cream-colored envelope. I felt my stomach drop. My father and I hadn't always seen eye to eye, but we were close, or at least I thought we were, until Regina moved in. Slowly, the phone call stopped. The invitations to dinner vanished. Regina had built a wall around him, and I was on the outside looking in. "Before you read that," Regina interrupted, her hand resting on the polished desk. "I think we should make one thing clear to my stepdaughter." She turned to me. Her eyes were cold, merciless. "I have the power of attorney documents from your father's final month," she said. He realized, toward the end, who was actually there for him, and who was just waiting for a check. She looked back at the lawyer. "I am cutting her out," Regina announced. "Entirely. I've already authorized the amendments. She gets nothing. Not the house, not the investments, not even her mother's jewelry." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The room seemed to spin. "Regina," I whispered, "he would never do that. My mother's jewelry was promised to me. He changed his mind," she snapped. "Now, Mr. Henderson, read the final decree so we can end this charade." I looked at the floor, my eyes stinging. I thought that was the worst part, but I was wrong. Because as Mr. Henderson cleared his throat, he didn't look at the paper Regina was pointing to. He looked at a second, smaller envelope tucked inside the first. "Actually, Mrs. Sterling," the lawyer started. Regina's smirk faltered. "What do you mean, actually?" "This is the document you provided," he said, sliding a paper across the desk. "The one signed in your presence last month." "Exactly," Regina said, her voice rising. "However," Mr. Henderson continued, his voice becoming remarkably calm, "your husband visited my office privately 3 days after that date. He was quite lucid." I looked up, curiosity flickering through my grief. "He left a specific instruction," the lawyer said, "a dead man's clause regarding any amendments made under duress or through a power of attorney." Regina's hand started to shake. "That's impossible. He was too weak to leave the house." "He had help," Mr. Henderson said, and that's when everything changed. The lawyer pulled out a tablet and hit play on a video file. It was my father. He was sitting in this very office. He looked frail, yes, but his eyes were sharp. "If you're watching this," my father's voice filled the room, "it means Regina has tried to play her hand. It means she thinks she's successfully cut my daughter out of my life." Regina let out a choked sound. "Regina, I knew what you were doing," my father continued. "Every pill you withheld, every phone call you blocked. I let you think you were winning because I needed you to stay close enough for me to gather the evidence." My father looked directly into the camera. "Mr. Henderson has the logs from the hidden cameras I installed in the library. He has the recordings of you discussing my accidental overdose with your brother." I felt a chill wash over me. Fear, absolute cold fear. She wasn't just a gold digger, she was a murderer. But that wasn't the real secret. Regina stood up, her chair screeching against the floor. "This is a fake! This is a deepfake!" she screamed. "It's not," Mr. Henderson said, "and the police are currently in the lobby." Regina turned to run toward the door, but it didn't open. 2 detectives stepped inside. They weren't there for the will reading. They were there for the arrest. I watched as the woman who had spent 15 years trying to erase me was handcuffed in her expensive black lace. I thought that was the end, but it wasn't. After the police led her away, the room went silent. Mr. Henderson turned back to me. "There's more, Maya," he said. "More. Your father didn't just protect your inheritance," he said. "He found something your mother had hidden before she passed, something she knew Regina would kill for." He handed me a small velvet box. I opened it. Inside wasn't a diamond, it wasn't a ruby. It was a simple, tarnished brass key with a number engraved on it. "What does this open?" I asked. "A safe deposit box in Zurich," Mr. Henderson said. "It contains the patents for your father's original software, patents Regina thought were lost in the fire 10 years ago." I realized then that my father hadn't just been hiding from Regina, he'd been protecting the future of our family. The software was worth tens of millions. Regina had been trying to steal the house and the cars, while the true fortune was sitting in a vault halfway across the world, waiting for me to be 25. I thought I would feel happy, I thought I would feel triumphant, but as I looked at the video of my father, I just felt a deep, hollow ache. He had spent his final months living in fear. fear, playing a high-stakes game of chess just to make sure I was safe. And that's when everything changed. I didn't take the money and run. I opened a foundation for elderly abuse victims. I made sure that what happened to my father would never happen to anyone else in this town. What happened next shocked the social circles Regina used to run in. She was sentenced to 20 years for attempted murder and elder abuse. Her brother followed her shortly after. And me? I moved back into the house. I took down the heavy velvet curtains she'd installed. I let the light in. I still have that brass key. I never went to Zurich. I don't need the millions. Not yet. Knowing it's there is enough. Knowing my father loved me enough to fight for me from beyond the grave is the only inheritance I ever really needed. Powerful final ending line. She thought she could rewrite my father's story, but she forgot that he was the one who held the pen until the very last page. Justice isn't always fast, but when it arrives, it's absolute. Have you ever had a family member try to steal what was rightfully yours? Tell me your story in the comments. And if you believe that truth always finds its way to the light, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You aren't alone.